Hey everybody, what's up? Teldo here, and today we're going to be looking at the upcoming patch 0.8. It's going to release on the Friday 21st of October, and it's going to be the Halloween patch. There is a bunch of changes in there, a lot more than expected from me, honestly, and I'm super excited for this patch, so let's get right into it. First of all, we have not only one, we have two new heroes coming out. We have Chumeng, the Beast Hunter. They released a little teaser a week ago or so. He's like the Seeker remake from BLC. A lot of people are excited about him. And we have Ruh Kaan, who is the Harbinger remake. Super excited about this one because, man, Harp was my main, and I'm going to be covering him a lot in the coming days. We'll definitely have a champion overview and maybe a guide coming up as well. I have to learn him first, though. Then we have new skins, new cosmetics coming out. We have a Blackstone Arena at night coming out, which is a new map. Looks really cool. We have an Ultimate Fan Package update for people who already have bought it. I love that they're just bringing new stuff for those guys out. I think it's awesome. We have the Battle Wolf mount coming out for those guys. Then we have a Halloween event coming up from 21st to November 4th, which has limited Halloween content. And there's going to be Halloween chests, which contain at least one epic Halloween skin. Joining the official Battlerite Steam group will also give you a Halloween chest and a free rare weapon for Ruh Kaan, which I think is awesome. Then we have matchmaking changes. There's going to be unranked and ranked queues added. And this should not split the player base because unranked players can play with ranked players, just that unranked players won't have their rating changed. I'm really interested in that though because this might inflate the ranking system. I don't know. We will have to see. But I'm really curious to see how that works out. But I'm relieved that it won't split the player base too much. And then there's a bunch of different champion changes and they're really in-depth. There's lots of Battleриtes being moved around and basic changes for all of the different champions. I don't want to go too much into detail, so I'm going to keep this super brief for everybody. Rook has been performing pretty badly because he had no real escapes and no invul frames, so they changed around that he does not have weapon charges anymore on his left click. His right click always applies armor break now, and it has invul frames now, which is interesting. Also, his left click reduces the cooldown of his right click, so I wonder maybe they have increased the cooldown of M2 or something. It doesn't say anything, so we'll have to see. Because I mean, if it had a really short cooldown like before, it would be crazy having an invul frame on it. Anyway, this Meatbolt EXM2 also allows you to move while casting. Then they have moved around a bunch of the talents. Don't want to talk too much about it, but there's also new talents, like you can rush twice after hitting the first rush, which is interesting. I probably don't agree with it because it feels kind of weird, but we'll have to see how it plays out. And yeah, his stuff has been moved around. Don't want to go too much into detail here, but I'm really curious to see how Rook plays out in the future. Then Jade has gotten a ton of changes. She does not have her immaterial on her Q anymore, which is huge because that made her kind of untouchable for most people. Then her ultimate got nerfed quite a bit. The damage from direct hits have been reduced from 30 to 28, and from AoE hits from 20 to 16, which is a pretty significant nerf. Then there is a stealth nerf as well, which only removes movement impairing effects now rather than all negative effects, which is huge. Really curious to see how that works out. Round 1 has gotten the most changes. There's pretty much only new talents in there for her now. Her stealth resets cooldown of snipe as one of the talents now, which is interesting, so she can maybe get some crazy burst out with. Then allows her blast wall to cause you to enter stealth for 2 seconds. So I guess she will be playing a lot more in the back now with a lot of extra stealth duration, I guess, with that one in particular. And then we have Cheap Shot, which causes your disabling shot to inflict a 1.2 second root. Other than that, there have been more talents being moved around and all that. There's also one talent which increases the knockback distance of her R, and knocking enemies into walls will stun them. Curious to see how that plays out, honestly. I think Jade will play very differently. Then we have Sirius. He got changed a lot too. His Sunrays, the Q ability, heals on default now himself. Before it didn't heal himself, and that is a huge buff to his survivability. I think that's a great change because that's something that he really needed. Then on round 1 he has a bunch of really interesting new talents. Sunbath causes your charged grass and strike to empower your next sunlight, causing 2 additional beams to strike the same target area, healing the nearest ally for 12 and 6 health. So Not exactly sure how this one works, if it will consume the charge or if it only works after you hit your charge Crescent Strike, I don't know. But anyway, this will give him a lot more heal abilities, I guess. He can just heal a lot more with that. Have to figure out how it works though first, so curious to see how this one works out. Illumination causes your sunrise to illuminate yourself and allies hit, increasing damage output by 20% and healing received for 20%. For 4 seconds is another tier 1 talent, and damn, that sounds really interesting. If you can just play very aggressively with that, you can just increase the healing received a lot, you can heal through a lot of extra damage that you might take, and to increase your damage overall. So damn, if you jump on someone with that, 20% extra damage on your Crescent Strike is gonna be crazy. Then on round 2 there's one crazy new talent, which causes your Prismatic Strike to recharge your weapon, which is absolutely crazy. That's the R ability, so you can maybe jump on someone with your Q ability after triggering it, get the 20% damage increase, and then you can use your left click, use your R, and left click again, and that's absolutely crazy burst. I think this talent will make Sirius really niche, and it will give him kind of his own role, because beforehand, ranged supports can also deal a lot of damage over time, and I think Sirius has always been around about just dealing heavy burst damage when he gets the opportunity, because it was a lot harder to pull off. But with this, man, that sounds kinda OP actually, even, because he can just absolutely destroy somebody with that. That's like 20 plus damage with Prismatic Strike, 16 damage from, 20 plus damage with the charged weapon, 16 damage from Prismatic Strike, and then 20 plus damage from the charged weapon again. Especially because on round 3 there's a bunch of talents which buff your charged Crescent Strike now. One allowing to inflict a 1.2 second root, one increasing the weaken duration, and one giving you 6 extra damage. If you take the extra damage plus 20% damage from the other talent, and holy crap, I don't even... seems pretty crazy. Other than that, he's gotten a few other small changes. Paloma has gotten a few small changes, Battlerite's being moved around again as well. One of the interesting ones here is that one other side talent allows you to turn the target invisible for the duration, which I think allows some interesting plays. Not gonna go too much into detail with Paloma. So now let's look at Bakko. He's been changed significantly. His right click has been nerfed a lot. It only deals 14 damage from 16 damage. It does not inflict Fading Snare anymore on max charges, and the cooldown has been increased from 2 seconds to 3.5 seconds, so almost double, which is crazy to me. So you can't poke enemies down from range anymore as much, but his War Axe's M1 ability reduces the cooldown per hit of his Blood Axe by 0.5 seconds, so it's a lot more about just sitting in your enemy's face and you will be rewarded for that, rather than just poking enemies to death from range. Then also his EX space has been reworked. It doesn't only incapacitate enemies around him anymore, it jumps to target location and incapacitates enemies there, which I think is a good change. It incapacitates for 2.5 seconds. Other than that, he has gotten a bunch of reworks for his Battlerites, and stuff has been moved around here as well, which I really love that they have done this for all the different characters. Some of the interesting stuff here is Raging Slam on round 1, increases the shield dash distance by 30% and reduces the cooldown by 2 seconds on top of that, which will make him just really good at sitting in your face and CCing you a lot more. And then on round 2, he gets Shield Dash, which inflicts a 1 second stun when slamming somebody into a wall, so damn. Instead of an incapacitate beforehand, this is a stun now, so really curious to see. He's gonna be a lot more aggressive, I think, and a lot less about poking from range. Then we have Varesh changes on round 1. He only has gotten Battlerite changes again as well. On round 1 he has a talent which causes his Inhibitor's Guard on application to cause a shockwave that stuns all nearby enemies for 0.5 seconds and inflict a corruption, which is pretty interesting. It's a very good choice on tier 1. Beforehand you took double Vuchu most of the time, and now you have that. On top of that, there's another talent on round 1 which causes your Hand of Judgment to bounce towards the second target, dealing 8 damage and inflicting Judgment, which is really good aggressively, I think, dealing extra AoE damage. And obviously we still have the double Vuchu, because honestly it's a pretty good talent. Most people underestimate it, but it really helps with survivability. Other than that, he has gotten a really interesting talent on tier 2, which causes you to have increased movement speed by 25% and damage output by 15% when you have Inhibitor's Guard on a target, which is crazy. And his talent, which used to heal targets for 14 with Inhibitor's Guard, just got changed to absorbing 14 more damage, so that's kind of a nerf, but honestly, he has gotten some interesting changes changes here overall. Then we have Ashka. He didn't really get too many changes, just some stuff being moved around. His spacebar talent, which used to give 50% movement speed, only gives 30% now, which I think is a fair nerf because that talent was kind of overloaded anyway, because it also empowers your left click. Then we have growth changes, which I really agree with, honestly. His Deceit, EXQ. If you attack a target that has counter or whatever on, your Deceit will not re-enter camouflage anymore after hitting. You will just hit the counter and then you're out of stealth, which is a good change, honestly. I mean, it will be quite a significant nerf, but I think it's a good change. Also, his incapacitate duration has been reduced from 3.5 seconds to 3 seconds, and his Battlerites have been buffed. Cut to the chase has an increased movement speed from 25% to 30% now, which will help for sure. On the round 5, you get 40% movement speed rather than 30% on his ultimate, which honestly won't make a big difference really anymore. Then Freya has gotten her EX base reworked. It does not apply incapacitate and knockback anymore. Instead, it deals 8 bonus damage and inflicts a 2-second snare and static. So she's a lot more aggressive with her EX base, and she had too much control beforehand anyway, so I kind of agree with that. I understand if some people are upset about it though. Iva hasn't really gotten many changes. Her haste on the spacebar talent has been increased from 50% to 65%. Lucy has been nerfed on her Petrify EX dart, which is really good, down from 3.4 seconds duration to 3 seconds duration, and it no longer petrifies nearby enemies unless you hit an enemy, which is huge, and I really agree with that change. Then Shifu has been nerfed kinda, but not really that much. The damage numbers have been moved around a little bit. His M1 deals 9 damage instead of 8 now, and his M2 only deals 9 in base damage rather than 10, and it only gains 5 extra damage per stack rather than 6. So you deal less damage with M2, more damage with M1. It's still enough to kill the orb with your combo, but I think it's gonna help for sure. Then his R ability, the Incapacitate, has been reduced to 2.5 seconds rather than 3 seconds, which is a good change, I think. And his Mantra healing that he uses when he counters has been reduced from 16 to 14, which is okay, honestly, because that talent is pretty damn strong anyway. And Taya has been buffed a little bit. A couple talents. Cooldown reduction from on the move has been increased from 0.25 to 3.3 seconds, sorry. Tracking duration has been increased from 0.4 seconds to 0.5 seconds. Other than that, those were pretty much the full balance changes. They have done a few fixes here and there as well. A couple of quality of life changes in private matches, which I think is great. And yeah, that really concludes the patch, but there's so many changes. A lot of stuff will feel very different. I'm super excited for it. And in the coming days, I'm going to be covering a lot of Ruh Kaan, the Harbinger remake, and yeah, I will just talk more about some of the specific patch changes. Hope you enjoyed the video, and let me know what you think, and see you guys next time. Bye bye!